Well, thank you for having me. I have to squeeze in my little talk in 30 minutes now. See what I can do for you. Actually, I find it interesting because all the stories are very interesting, but I want to ask some questions actually with my presentation, because we know all what we want to do, but then how are we going to do it? And that is probably the most important question. Very quickly, I'm running an office in Amsterdam called Carve. This is my team. I always show this because it's not me, it's the team. And this is how we try to think, still unbiased, wondering if we got a new job, and not thinking like kids, but in the sense of a kid. This is where we work. We work worldwide. Unfortunately, I rather work in Europe. And this is just some examples of what we do, because we don't cater for a particular playground or a particular style. We just do what we think is good for that particular place. Just a few things to get an idea. Sometimes we do natural, sometimes we do very unnatural. It doesn't matter as long as it's playful. That's important, and if it contributes actually to a space, and more specifically, actually, we work in urban environment, not so much in natural environment. Just a few examples. This is a project I'm going to talk more about in Friday evening. It's a former coal mine in Belgium. This is a project in Eindhoven. It's totally not for kids, but we are all kids. We still play. It doesn't stop. And we play at night. We drink a beer. A very commercial project for a shopping mall. We do that as well, but please note this is publicly accessible. It's not shut off for the people that that only want to go to the shopping mall. Everybody can go there. It's also for the neighborhood. This is a recent project in Copenhagen for OMA, with a mixture actually of a public space and a play space. But I first want to discuss with you what does play mean, because I don't know actually. Homo Ludens, you might have heard about that. It's a book from Johan Huizinga, Dutch historian. Play is the base of all culture, and we know exactly when you play, but it's very hard actually to express. You can write books about that. Aldo van Eyck, I'm not going to emphasize on his work, but he was very important for Amsterdam, made 700 playgrounds, set plays, everything that comes after mankind's primary needs. Something we also should value. But what can a playground mean then? Well, it should cater for play, it should evoke play. But it can also give identity to a space, because what about if you're a child and you say, let's meet at the other orange play structure, at the other square? No, this is the blue square. Everybody knows in this neighborhood. This is a project from years ago, a very small one. It has some sculptural quality, maybe, but it can also cater for the unexpected, something we cannot think of, and this is where it becomes a playground. So we have been discussing things. I heard someone mentioning that we haven't done anything in the last 25 years. Actually, we haven't learned anything in the last 100 years, maybe. Playground in Japan. I heard about free play. We always talk about non-directive play. Noguchi. I love this. It's also pre-Second World War. And he actually wanted to give social meaning to his sculpture. So we can learn from that, and we gave sculptural meaning to our social play equipment. Or a slide that can be used in many different ways, learning from Kanuko. So what happened then, after 1980? That's the 25 years, or maybe that's already 35 years, or even more. Modern playgrounds, I love them. I love the color scheme. If you would be out in Berlin, you would be really a hipster if you use this in your clothing. And then we had suddenly a natural playground, which is also something it's not really natural, it's always this unnatural thing made from natural materials. Or should we play with nature rather than having a natural playground? And isn't all play natural actually by its nature? So does it matter? We live in cities. I heard 70% of the Czech population is living in cities. Probably 70% of the world population is living in cities in 25 years. So you can play in a green environment and kids will always find something to do. But is there truly a difference if you have this in your neighborhood where it's non-directive and you have to discover what you can do with it? And then another topic I want to discuss, all-inclusive or universal design, very often mentioned. So this is what we do, torture equipment for wheelchair people. I found this on the internet, all-inclusive playground. I've never seen such an invitational advertisement for a playground. I have no idea what is all-inclusive about this. So what about mentally disabled, visually impaired, hearing impaired, socially handicapped? Should you play focus on disabilities or abilities or capacities? This is also universal design. Should it look like it's meant for disabled? No, it shouldn't. This is also universal design. I can deliberate on that, but maybe that's for another time. Visually impaired, they can practically go everywhere if they have a good map of the playground and not only a text of the playground. Do you think this boy is disabled? I don't know. We're all impaired in a way. So, color is another thing in playgrounds. The good, it's a very nice scheme. The bad, although you might like it. Or the ugly, where I have to say the skaters actually colored nicely in between the lines of the skate park. They really try to enhance the quality of the skate park. Should we need just a hint of color? Is color important, or is it the sand that is important? Can it be all black? And actually, would children bother about if it's all black? We are actually in an all black environment at the moment, and we think that is really cool. But it could also evoke coloring like on the chalkboard. So children will always do something with it that we don't think of. Then can play be a catalyst for space. I showed this already. Actually here, play is being used to revitalize the area as the common as the largest statement of the area. Is it a landmark, a slag dump, a playground? It doesn't matter what it is if it's playable. Is it for exercising for all ages when you run up and down, or is it just a slide? I don't know. Is it a monument for camaraderie? Celebrating, or actually not celebrating, but remembering the former spirit of the miners that all work together and that have to climb this structure together? Is it the playground, the lookout point? It all doesn't matter. We want to see how we want to try to get play as an element in spaces that can enhance the quality of that space. Now a little bit about history. I talked about 100-year-old history. This is in Amsterdam where I live, and we in the urban layout of Amsterdam in the beginning of the 20th century, we incorporated playgrounds, open spaces. And that was due to the movement of healthy living. Park movement maybe has to do with it as well. After the industrial era, I need to say. And that was actually a hub for the whole neighborhood. It has an association, it had people involved, everybody was going there. And then in the 70s, we get cars in, more cars in. We closed down the playground associations because we don't want to pay for people anymore. We only want to make physical environments. And then we start rethinking it, beginning of this century, and we are going to organize it a little bit better. And we have still a lot of cars there because cars is the problem in any city. And this is in 2010, after the plan is being built. And I'll show you the interior of the plan, but actually it's a square where we connected the houses to the playground again, because the playground, I know I can, the playground is actually here. There's no cars. Suddenly children can go from their houses directly into the playground. How about that? So this is the interior of the playground, a new play and sports area. And it's also a playground, a coffee shop, and a neighborhood hub. So we're 100 years further down the road, and we rebuilt the environments that we already had. only with a different aesthetic maybe. So, strategies to enhance play spaces, steps to be taken, and this is from a more urban approach. The active city. I recently worked on a book together with a lot of other people about what can we do with our densifying cities, and of course my topic was play spaces. And the Van Beuningenplein was the one that I just showed that was in there. There's actually lots of opportunities for sports and play in a city, and also in a densifying city. Not every space has to fall in the hands of developers. Small spaces can be actually designed differently and made very useful, but most important is spatial justice. Cars take a lot of space, everybody knows this image, but in relation to how much time do we need to spend at least on physical activity outside? And how is it actually being taken care of in a city in relation to the amount of children? And there's 1.2 million inhabitants in Prague, of which, if I'm correct, approximately 0.2 million are children under 14 years old. And then I put the 3% rule in that we tried to incorporate in Dutch law, and it failed actually. But we don't even have 3% on play spaces in the public realm in the Netherlands. So there is some spatial injustice for playgrounds or playable areas. The active city is about cycling and walking, not only for getting the cars out, but mobility is the most important thing, and everything needs to be in the neighborhood, including playgrounds, and they need to be reachable. But the city also caters for people that make use of it as a city gym, or they invent new sports just in the city. We don't need specific playgrounds actually for that. Very often we have programmed closed-off spaces in cities, but they need to be opened up, fences taken out. And then we get open structures and open spaces that can be used by many people on many different time slots. So I give you some example of active spaces. Meerpark. This is a park at the, oh, I'm going to explain that. This is all about the open sports and play park in Amsterdam, and that was being built in 2010, so it's a little bit older. Where are we? This is important because nobody knows Amsterdam, but this line here that we cannot see is the periphery of Amsterdam. That's where the freeway is, is hard to cross. And within this periphery, you see this mark here, there is one of the last open green spaces that is relatively large. All the parks are a little bit more to the center. And this is the park. It's part of an ecological zone. And it's a sports park. And it had fences around all courts. And there were sports clubs, and they maintained and kept it. But they couldn't pay for it anymore. Maintenance, a problem. So together with sports and recreation, not so much with the playground organization, we thought of how about opening up this sports facility and turn it into a new park, turn it into a new sports-related park for everyone to use. And the original idea was actually making only a playground there. What we did is we only developed this strip here that you just saw on the image, and we opened up all spaces in between the sports facilities. Let me go one back. This actually meant that people were going to go in between the sport fields, not only following the roads, and because all the fences were taken out, everybody could use the sports facilities, the fields, and in return, the clubs were getting AstroTurf fields so they didn't have to maintain it anymore. In the middle, we developed only a strip as a new park, as an entrance for this area. And you need to know that we were only commissioned to do a playground. So this is what it looks like now. There is a new park. It's connecting all the sports fields. It does have explanation of the whole area. It's one of the most used areas in this neighborhood at the moment. And there is a playground. I call it natural playground, but I think it's very unnatural actually. There's no fences, it's just a hill, that's it. It blends functions, you can sit and read, you can run over it, you can lay in the sun. There is not a specific equipment there, it's integrated. And there's a big boulder wall, and you might think, why is it orange? Because we live under sea level, so making it out of rock would be nonsense. So we wanted it to look very artificial again. But bringing in a professional soft organization that really wants to go there is already bringing in a lot of activity. And what you see happening here is that children and these groups, they just mix, it doesn't matter. Oh, sorry. And more interesting, children get to learn how to use those walls, because normally on playground equipment, they just simply climb up and they go, oh, very simple. Or they cannot climb up and they say, oh, this is way too difficult. And here they can learn how to use this wall. Then the Van Beuningen plan, another example of how we can look at spaces in cities that are densifying. And this is, again, an open space. This is in a 19th century layout part of Amsterdam that at the time that we were commissioned was not really, was with a lower social income, I should say. This is the square. And this is the plan. And you need to know that they were building a parking garage there underneath. That was our luck. That was our big luck, because the district, we don't have districts anymore in Amsterdam, wanted to get the cars out of the street. So we could connect, as I told you before, these facades directly to this space. But now, before I continue about participation, if you have a participative process, in the end, people want everything on their square. So how are you going to deal with that? So what we thought is, let's not deal with it and try to get as much in, but compromise on everything. So why can a sports area also not be a water play area? Why can the playground also not being used for seating or even go through it? We try to bring in strange elements, and they are being used, and we call it unexpected possibilities. Oh, I'm going too fast. Children of different ages, they don't bother. They learn how to use the space together. It's a shared space, actually. Can be a soccer court, can be a water playground, can be a skate facility. And then for equipment, because we haven't talked about equipment, why should it be age specific? This can be used for different age groups, actually. In the evening, I see very often a bunch of girls hanging out there just talking with each other. Why is a playground for children? Why is it not for parents? Actually, for the whole community, and hopefully engages that community there. And if you design in a way that it's not really clear if it's a bench, if it's playground equipment, then it can be used in many different ways. It's about affordances. Nobody is bothered by someone walking over this stage. If it would have been a table, everybody would have been bothered. Seating and skating, spectators are also part of an interesting group using this space. I heard someone say about the skate facility. No, that needs to be in the center of a city, not on the outskirts. Professional basketball player. He has a different time slot. He knows exactly when the toddlers are not on their tricycles there. I told this one before, basketball and water play. Can we use it for a festival, for the area, for the local neighborhood? So playground, can it be also a neighborhood hub? Can play actually be one of the basic elements to build your community and your public space on? So this is what I want to end with. 20 years active, still questioning. We don't know, but I hope I raised some questions.
Thanks a lot. Could you take headphones for...